Tonight is St Andrew's night, and so we thought having pipes was very appropriate. And we chose the piper called Andrew, because that was appropriate. And we chose it because today is his 50th birthday. This part of the evening is much more light-hearted than the first part, the service of induction. So we want you to relax and be happy and cheer and whatever. To begin with, we're going to be looking backwards a little bit. We've been vacant for 3 3/4 years, and during a period of vacancy, churches can decline, members can drift away, and we can lose our enthusiasm. But thanks to 2 people in particular, our local minister and our interim moderator, we have held together. The members of Stample have helped, the members of Netherley have helped, and especially Tom, Minister of Netherley. But we're going to look a little bit backwards, and we're going to thank the 2 gentlemen for their hard work as interim moderator and as local minister. And I'm going to ask Christine Finnegan, who's a member of our church, to give a presentation to Jack. And Christine, when I say she's an ordinary member, she's a very extraordinary person, but she's not an elder, she's not a board, she's not a trustee. She represents people in the congregation. And so, Christine, I'll ask you to come up, please.
So, this is a thank you to Jack. Good morning, boys and girls. Good morning, everyone. That's how Jack opens our Sunday services. And that's how I'll open this thank you to Jack. With the wee amendment, of course. Good evening, boys and girls. Good evening, everyone. And there we have it in a nutshell, what it means to be in church with Jack. Inclusive, welcoming, straightforward. And the children are very much part of our service, the stepping stones, boys and girls, with them usually seated in the front pews. And we have a wee address, and no matter what a dire week you've had, how flat you are, how stressed you are just getting through that door, and I'm sure we've all felt that all disappears as we watch, and I certainly learn, from the children's address. Every week, I remember the words of the great sage W.C. Fields: never work with children and animals. They go rogue, steal your thunder, they don't work to the script. And every week, the stepping stones go rogue, steal the thunder, don't follow the script. And that brings life to our church. Jack's had them herring around the place, and every week I do want to go herring around with them, and I'm sure I'm not alone in that. He has them up and down the aisles looking for objects, cutting things up using lots of props, from a loaf of bread to pencils to old Valentine's cards, copies of the Beano. And possibly the most nerve-wracking of all, he asks them to think. What are they going to say? And me and my pew buddies, we all look at each other. Will we get the answer? Jack shows that one generation can speak to another. So our Stepping Stones children wrote down words to sum up Jack. And the first word that came up, Jack, I'm afraid, was old. There they go, going rogue. But here's more words they wrote down. Kind, great, funny, sweet, interactive, good, caring. And one of our youngest stepping stones is young Scott. I don't think we have a week where he doesn't make us laugh. So Jack, your word from Scott that he wrote down, and I'll let you see it first. You're good. So Jack is good, and he really is good. So we must also take the time here to say a huge thank you to Barbara, lending us your husband for over 3 years, and playing music for us at some of the services. It's very much appreciated. We can't do without the music. And there's Jack's work in the wider community, of course, at Netherby Primary, the care homes in the area, the youth organisations, the Guild, to name but some. But what I want to say now isn't me speaking, it's us, Stamperland people, with our joys, our griefs, our pains, our questions, our hopes, our struggles. This is what our Stamperland people have told me about Jack. These are the direct quotes, simply put. Just wonderful, superb, so caring, great with kids, marvellous, lovely guy. There's a sincerity there, a fine man, selfless. He remembers all our names. His face lights up when he sees people. Now, I also found a deep thankfulness from those who suffered the heaviest of losses, the loss of a loved one. I had permission from a widower to speak about him here. He told me, what he did for me when my wife was ill, he did everything, visiting hospital and home. He brightened her up, and he would say a prayer, and that meant a lot. And that's been echoed by many, many others. As one person said, nobody knows all he's done. He goes the extra mile. I don't want this to be agony for a humble person, but this isn't me speaking, I speak for Stamperland. This is the voice of the everyday, the bereaved, the struggling. Through all the facets of being human, you were there. From the christenings and the little babies snuggling in the crook of your arm, to the guidance on just how to get through this life, to the saddest day of people's lives, you were there, and thank you.
Well, perhaps the first thing I should say is to agree with the boys and girls, yes. In fact, during my time at Stamperland, I passed from one decade into the next, and I'm sure you can guess what that was. Last year I had a special birthday, but I must say thank you to Christine and to the members of the congregation for all these lovely things that have been said, and on my part to say that I have enjoyed the 3.5 years I have been here. I often wondered if I hadn't been doing duties here, what would I have been doing with my time? Probably watching too much television because I'm not into golf or bowls or anything like that. I've enjoyed it being here, and I think one of the joys of being a local minister is because you can concentrate on the duties that you've been trained to do and avoid the things that ministers maybe don't particularly like to do but have to be done. And these duties fell to Gray Fletcher. The meetings, the discussions, the church politics. I avoided all of these, and I was never very good at these kind of things, and so I could concentrate on pastoral duties and preparing for Sunday worship. I'll just be brief tonight, but it's a very sincere thank you to everyone, and also to Norrie Bolton, our session clerk,
who has been a tower of strength behind the scenes, keeping Stamperland going through the vacancy and doing a lot of work that nobody knew really anything about. Norrie has been a wonderful session clerk, and his duties have increased during the years of the vacancy. Thank you all very much for this gift, and God bless you all. God bless Scott, and I'm sure you'll go from strength to strength here in Stamperland.
And we've got a wee thank you for Barbara as well. Thank you.
As Jack said, Grace Fletcher was the one who got all the admin work. We really are very grateful to Gray and all he has done in negotiating with Presbytery, in helping us through what was quite a difficult time, in meeting us with Tom, together with Netherlee. And I've asked two people, John Montgomery, who's the session clerk from Netherlee, and Stephen Owens, who's an elder from Stamperland, to make a presentation to Gray, giving the two viewpoints of Netherlee and Stamperland. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm a little bit worried when Norrie started his introduction there, because I think some of the things he said I've already written down here. Bear with me if you've heard this before. Although I knew Gray Fletcher, it was only when Netherlee and Stamperland started the process of looking for a minister to replace George Mackay, and for Netherlee to link to thereafter with Stamperland, that I got to know him at what was a difficult time for Netherlee, discussing a new minister when Tom Nelson was still very much in post, and would be for some considerable time. Gray was sensitive to Tom's position and went out of his way to be sympathetic at all times in the lead up to the appointment of a joint nominating committee. Gray had the very good sense to attend the inaugural meeting of that committee, see that we had a clerk and someone to chair the committee, and thereafter left us to get on with the job. But he was always available if we needed advice or clarification from Presbytery on what we were allowed or not allowed to do. Diane Levy, as chair of the committee, I know found him to be very helpful when called upon from time to time. Gray then reappeared on the scene once we had identified Scott and were prepared to recommend him as sole nominee. I've lost count of the number of informal meetings Norrie, Diane and myself have had with Gray leading up to Scott preaching as sole nominee on the 3rd of September, and to the meetings we have had with the Presbytery clerk for clarification on matters of procedure and the various papers we needed to provide them with. The numerous edicts, I know Netherlee groaned every time I came up to the lectern to get another edict, and they all required to be read out all leading to the vote on the 3rd of September. It was interesting, on Sunday, Tom had to read out the edict for tonight, and I was sitting in the congregation watching, and a number of members of the congregation were busy looking at the order of service and not listening to their flying words. Could we do the same when I'm talking? And I think the answer is probably yes, given the number of questions I get afterwards. He didn't tell us what time it was. I do recall receiving a phone call from Gray on the afternoon of the vote, as I had taken all the voting slips home with me, in a mild panic to ensure I still had them and had not incinerated them. The Presbytery needed them to be handed into the office on the Monday morning. His relief was palpable, and I assured him that I had them safe and sound and they had not been destroyed. Dealing with Gray has been a pleasure as he guided us through the process and procedures some of which were, in my view, in need of updating to the 21st century. But we got there in the end, thanks in no small way to the assistance we received throughout the process from Gray. 3¾ years is a long time to be interim moderator, and it is to his credit that he's maintained a good relationship with both Kirk Sessions and with Netherley's congregation when he had to chair our meetings when Tom was not allowed to moderate over matters to do with the vacancy. Gray, it's been a great pleasure working with you, and I am sure that if you ever need a reference for vacancy matters, I would be more than happy. From the Netherley Church Session and congregation, our thanks for all your hard work and assistance.
It's wonderful to see so many people here tonight to celebrate the next chapter in Stamplin's history. You know, we keep talking about how this church has been vacant for a long time, almost 4 years. But really we haven't been vacant at all. As you've heard already, we had Jack right through this time, and Gray has also managed to stick with us as interim moderator, even though he had some of the more difficult and unpleasant tasks. So tonight is also a time to acknowledge and celebrate all that Gray has done and been involved in. When Nori emailed and asked me to say a few words about Gray tonight, I was certain there was someone more suitable, more qualified. I suggested that maybe there were others in the Kirk Session that had been an elder longer than I have. Maybe Alistair Graham or Conal Cranston or even Margot Nielsen. The reply was simple. We spoke to everyone else. Folks, we're starting with me, and I'm trying to keep it brief. Recently I was at a conference with a number of ministers. The speaker asked everyone in attendance, how many people does it take to screw in a light bulb? A range of answers followed. One minister from the north of Scotland responded, none. If God wants the bulb screwed in, he is sovereign and will do it himself without human effort. Next, a minister from Largs responded, none. The bulb doesn't need to be changed. We should pray that it be healed. A minister from deepest, darkest Ayrshire chimed in, none. We simply need to cast out from the bulb the demon of darkness. A wee minister from Aberdeen replied, none. We shouldn't even enter the room because we need to keep ourselves separate from all darkness. And finally, a minister from Glasgow piped up, none. We don't want to make the bulb feel unwanted. As I sat listening to all these replies, it got me thinking, is it any wonder ministers are always in the dark? Gray, your time here with us hasn't always been an easy ride. Right from the start, you've had to work with very strong, opposing views. As well as moderating over 40 meetings of Stamplin Kirk Session, you've been involved in 10 meetings held jointly with Netherley Session, 3 stated annual meetings, meetings associated with local church review, and boy, would those light bulbs have appealed to you and the rest of us attending those discussions. In addition to all of this, there have been plenty of meetings with the session clerks, the business committee, the nominating committee, and presbytery. At a recent meeting of Stamplin Kirk Session, Gray was speaking about achievements since being here. You would think getting a Kirk Session with many opinions to agree to terms for the basis of linkage would have been high on that list. Or maybe the very respectful meeting held to consider if the Kirk Session was willing to depart from the traditional position of the Church of Scotland on the induction of ministers in same-sex relationships. But no, Gray stated his biggest feeling of accomplishment came from seeing the dishwasher finally installed. And that's the main theme. People often forget that the interim moderator has their own congregation to attend to, so everything Gray has been involved in at Stamplin has been in addition to the full-time day job as minister of Carmunnock Parish Church. 3 women were out for lunch together, and they were arguing over whose husband was the best. One said, my husband is best because he's the manager of the local bank. The second woman said, "That's pretty good, but my husband owns a chain of sports shops in the town." The third woman said, "That's nothing. My husband's the minister, and he owns hell." That's like the punchline. He came home last night and told me that the Kirk session had given it to him. As with all men with a wife, Gray knows that he couldn't have achieved all of this without the support of his wife, Maureen. Maureen, I'm sure you've had to listen to Gray's grumps and moans as he has helped lead this Kirk session. At least we only had to put up with them for a few hours a month. You to live with it. So as a token of our appreciation, I'd like to present on behalf of Stampland Parish Church these flowers. Two priests actually, who like me like a wee holiday in the sun now and again. They went to Hawaii last year for their holidays and they didn't want to be recognised as priests. So they went out and bought the brightest Hawaiian shirts and shorts and the darkest sunglasses they could find. They hired beach chairs on the shore and sat down to enjoy the sunshine, peace and quiet and the view. When out of the water, just like a Bond movie, came this beautiful, long-legged, gorgeous, bikini-clad blonde. As her long legs walked past the two priests, she turned round in passing. "Morning, Father." The priests were amazed. How did she know we were priests, they asked. So the next day they went out again and bought the most outrageous shirts and shorts. They covered themselves in bronze suntan cream and wore bigger sunglasses. They got themselves settled on the beach, again to enjoy the sun, and out of the blue, up she comes again like Ursula Andress in the Bond movies. Her flowing, long, blonde hair and her bouncing, bubbly knees. Striding out of the crystal clear water, she strides past the two priests and again says, "Morning, Father. Morning, Father." "Excuse me, miss, how do you know we are priests? We've done our best to disguise our vocation so nobody knows us." She replied, "It's me, Sister Teresa, don't you know?" So, Gray, after your time here with us, I'm sure you're in need of a holiday. So, I thought these might come in handy. A bit more appropriate for this time of year. In all seriousness though, Gray, on behalf of the Kirk Session and congregation here in Stamperland and the Kirk Session and congregation of Netherlee, thank you for getting us to this point and thank you for all you've done for us.
Safer not to put these on until I got here, or I might fall over something. I've got to put these down somewhere that they don't fall over. I better be careful. Through Castlemill churches together, I work with Sister Teresa. And she's not somebody you would tell that kind of story about. Even the priests are scared of her, I would have to say. 44 months and 10 hours ago, on the 30th of March, this of 2014, I stood over there to begin the service in which I preached Stamperland vacant by the way the terminology works. And over the last 44 months, I would suggest we have all travelled a long sometimes windy and occasionally bumpy road. As Stephen said, the most major accomplishment in that time, if you had sat through any of the session meetings, is actually that we got the dishwasher fitted properly. That really was the one issue that really got testy in the whole thing. We certainly had plenty of difficult issues, some very big decisions, but in all the discussions, yes, sides were drawn, yes, views were expressed, but at no stage, or almost no stage in that process, was anything other than the best of humour taken in those meetings. Sometimes there was major frustration, most of that with presbytery and how slow things worked at times, but always at the end of any particular discussion, and particularly at the end of meetings, although opposite sides had been taken, views had been expressed, people left as friends, able to accept that decisions had gone the way they had gone and that things were moving forward. Effectively, I think it took us a year and a bit discussing among Stamperland's session before we arranged for a meeting where the two sessions got together. At the end of which, I think I was talking to Norrie, to John and to Tom, and we decided that things really looked quite positive. Because the morning part of the meeting had been conducted by the person who led it in two sections. There was Stamperland and there was Netherley. And then in the beginning of the afternoon, he mixed everybody up. Stamperland people with Netherley and Netherley with Stamperland in different groups talking about the future. And then in the closing section, he broke everybody up again so that it was Netherley in one room, Stamperland in the other. And everybody started complaining. Why aren't we together anymore? And I think the four of us felt there's the sign that things can and will work if we take the time and work through the issues and sort things out properly. And with all of that, okay, it's taken another 2 years, basically another 2 years since then, a little over that, to get to this point. But it has worked through in a way that nobody was forced, nobody was pushed, nobody was hurried, and we took our time. As interim moderator, in the end, I think I have to give thanks to certain people. In particular to Norrie Bolton. Without a session clerk who is completely on the ball, an interim moderator's work is huge. But with one who is on the ball, who knows exactly what's happening, actually, in some cases, all I had to do was turn up at the meeting and everything ran smoothly. Equally, I have to give my thanks to Jack Drummond. I would have to say, Jack, my inclination would be like yours. Ditch the meetings and just do the preaching and the pastoral work. That would be my preferred version of things. But that's not the option you get when you're handed a job as interim moderator. You have to do the work of the meetings and all the rest of it. I would say there is only one set of meetings that I would happily have avoided and got rid of and not have to do, and that was the local church review. Scott, you're lucky. You don't have to face them for about another 4.5 years. My problem is I know my congregation is going to face them soon, so I've got them coming again. Other than those meetings, which were tedious, that's the polite version, I would have to say. The meetings went well, and the fact that Jack was there to deal with Sunday by Sunday, with funerals, with baptisms, with weddings, all the rest of it, has made my life as interim moderator much easier. I did have an interim moderator's job a number of years ago in another presbytery, and I will not give names of the congregation, but the hardest part of that job was finding them pulpit supply Sunday by Sunday. particularly since the departing minister handed me a list of acceptable preachers, which meant they were all male. I was tempted to choose some female ministers to cover their church, and then decided, why would I inflict that congregation on them? So, it has made my life so much easier, with Jack here to cover the congregation Sunday by Sunday, and to keep the congregation running not just smoothly, but very well. One of the things I learned, however, 44 months ago today, is be very careful what you do and what you say at any point in your life, because things will come back to bite you if you get them wrong. At the end of that first service that I took, somebody came up and said, "Did you grow up in Glencairn in Pollokshield?" I said, "Yes." "Were your mum and dad?" I said, "Yes." "I helped in the creche when you were a baby." And then I went to my first session meeting and Colonel Cranston introduced himself, and I nearly said, "Can I have Swiss sausage and mince, please?" Because he was our family butcher. But that wasn't the end of it. I'll come to the other one in a moment. But as well as saying thank you to Norrie and to Jack, I have to say thank you to John and to Tom. Again, it can be very difficult as an interim moderator dealing with one congregation, but when you are then faced with dealing with two, and with all the thorny issues that came up, there can be problems, and there can be sticking points. Tom in particular has had a difficult position to be in. I suppose perhaps I was able to sympathise. I was in his position in my previous charge, as my congregation had to negotiate with the next door congregation about linkages and all the rest of it, and then went ahead to elect my successor. So I was able to sympathise with Tom. I knew where he was coming from. I knew some of the things that he was possibly feeling and thinking, and so hopefully I have been sensitive at all times, Tom, to your position. And again, John, in all the meetings we have had, associated all the way from that first meeting that we had as joint Kirk sessions to the last few weeks as we've been talking about the arrangements for tonight and the like. It has been good to work with you in all of these things. And Diane, as the chairperson of the nominating committee, I hope that the help and advice that I have given you has in some ways paid you back for the trouble I may or may not have caused many years ago. I won't mention how many, Diane, because we don't want to admit that, do we? When Diane was one of the senior pupils employed to, do I say lion tame, the boys' choir of first years. It's a few years ago. All I'll say about a few years ago is Scotland had a big team in those years. And I can give you the full team still and all the rest of it. But again, it has been good working with you in terms of the nominating committee and all that has come up in that. And so in the end, all I want to say is, to finish, is to wish both Scott well and both the congregations well in your future. From all of my dealings with both congregations, Scott, you are in good hands. You have many good people here, and I think you should be looking at a very successful road ahead. But I hope and I pray for all of you in the coming months and years as you continue on your way.
Thank you very much, Craig. So far this evening, we've been looking backwards, and we've been dealing with the people on this side of the chancel. We'll shortly deal with the future and the people on this side. But to give us some entertainment and some enlightenment, With the word on the Enlightenment, we're inviting the joint Netherley and Stamford Choir to come and perform.
Please come out, choir.
Great if we had something like that every Sunday. Thank you very much, choir, and thank you, Stephen. You'll notice that Scott is sitting next to an empty chair. That chair was reserved for his wife, Liz. Liz, unfortunately, can't be here at the moment. She's been experiencing problems in getting her visa. So we hope and pray that the problem will be resolved very soon and that Liz will be able to join us in the very near future. Finding a minister is a difficult task. Finding a good minister is a really difficult task. And that task was given to the nominating committee, of which Diane was chairperson. We hope that you found a really good minister for us, committee. and we welcome Scott tonight. Now, traditional way of the congregation welcoming a minister is to present him with new robes, and I would ask Diane and Evelyn if they would come forward and formally present Scott with his new robes.
Scott, this is a new chapter in your ministry. It's a new chapter in the life of Stamperland Church and of Mary Lee Church. And we will all work together to take the linked charge of Stamperland and Mary Lee forward into the future. And we wish you very much well in your ministry.
Ladies and gentlemen, and Scott, this time last year, the nominating committee had just begun its work. A year later, and here we are gathered at your induction. The presentation of these robes is the final act of the nominating committee, the robes representing, as they do, the authority and solemn duty bestowed on Scott, who has been called to Stamperland with deferred linkage to Mary Lee to proclaim the gospel and preach the word. As convener of the nominating committee, I would like, on behalf of the committee, to thank those who supported us in our task. And in particular, I'd like to thank Alistair Gow as clerk, who ensured that our communications were clear, grammatically correct, and Timaeus. Linda Walker clarified the process for us initially, and in the early days of our committee, clarified it again, and again, and again. Greg Fletcher was a fantastic support, and he interpreted the Church of Scotland laws and rules, and dare I say foibles, for us. He was a great support and a great sounding board, and he did this without ever sounding board. I'd like to thank the committee, who showed great dedication, responsibility and integrity. During this process, new relationships between our congregations have developed, and these have underlined a sense of togetherness, friendship and excitement shared as we go forward in our future together. This has been an immense privilege for all of us. So Scott, as the spiritual says, you got a rope. And with that, I can publicly declare that the nominating committee is officially disbanded.
Good evening and welcome. If you're ever going to make a speech, don't be one of the last speakers, because what you've already written down and all the ones in front of you have taken half the material away. But anyway, we'll push on. It is wonderful to stand here and see so many folk here, and I pray that it will be like this every Sunday on Sunday. Looking back to October in 2016, it was decided that we could vote to form a joint nomination committee. We all then voted and elected our committee. Their responsibility was to find a new minister to answer the call. For someone to lead us forward and unite us in the future. This has been accomplished when Scott answered that call to be our new minister, and we welcome him here tonight. I have the privilege this evening to speak about one special person on our committee. That person is Diane. Diane was elected as our chairperson, and this could not have been easy as we were not all known to each other. Diane, with her superb leadership skills, soon had all of us formed into a hard-working team. Diane always led from the front in her own quiet, relaxed and helpful manner, guiding us through all that we had to do, keeping us right when she had to. Diane was always on the ball. Even when on holiday in Spain, she was kept in the loop, as they say. That's what I call going the extra mile. We thank you for your dedication, guidance, patience, and above all, your friendship and your prayers. On behalf of everyone, we say thank you to you. As a token of our appreciation for all that you have done, we would like to present these flowers to you. Thank you again.
Diane was a very good chairperson. As the convener, she made only one mistake. One morning, Dan in Kilmarnock was having 11sies, and she thought, do you know what? I think I'll give call a FaceTime call. Now, FaceTime, for those who don't know it, is when you use your mobile phone, and the person you're calling can see you, and you can see the person they're calling. Now, Scott was in New Jersey, 5 or 6 hours time difference. So Scott answered the phone in his pajamas. Our only mistake. Now, we don't really know a great deal about Scott. Some snippets, we know that he was 10 years in New Jersey. Before that, he was a minister in Edinburgh. And prior to that, he was a police detective. But someone who does know Scott rather well is Alan Watt. And Alan Watt, I hope, will tell us something about Scott that we really don't know, and that Scott would rather we didn't know. I know that Scott was a social worker, and then Alan was a social worker, and then he got the call to the ministry. So Alan and Scott studied together and struck a very close friendship. Alan has served in several rural parishes in Scotland, starting off in Sutherland, moving down to Aberdeenshire, and then I think the Lothians, and he now lives in Monteith in Angus. So, Alan, will you give us the lowdown on Scott, please?
I really don't know why I'm here, because your new minister and I have maybe had years of association, but he's never really been very respectful to me. He calls me the Origin. Nonetheless, it gives me great pleasure to say a few words, and there will be few because your bun fight's waiting for you. And I don't preach long on a Sunday either. But Scott, I think you were chancing at Aaron, inviting me to introduce you, but I'll try my best to do justice by you. And we thank you for giving me the opportunity of doing this, because there are other people better than I that I'm sure could say a lot more about you. But yes, I've known Scott for a number of years, essentially through our membership of the Iona community. And that was back in the late 1980s, so you can count for yourself how long that was ago. when he was a staff member of the community on the island. He was a mere boy then, by my standards, and good looking too, as I was, may I say. He was more than enthusiastic when driving the community's van, when he would go down to the jetty and just about go off the end of it, welcoming people as he did to the Abbey or to the MacLeod Centre, where he entered into the spirit of life of the island, and the community. And I use that word spirit advisedly, because he had the tendency to drag me down to the local island pub, where he would enjoy a wee bit of the malt, as they say. Yes, I recall, Scott, your great enthusiasm at Cayley's and discos, so here you go, there's an indication of what's coming along. And you were always good at encouraging people. And yes, I know you've called me the big gun or the Algin, but you've always been respectful of somebody who's older than yourself. Yes, can I just say, Scott is respectful of people in a unique kind of way. And I mean that. But over the years, I've followed Scott's career with great interest, which took him into the police and ministry, and already we've alluded to some of the charges he's had responsibilities for. The most recent being pastor in the US, where he married his wife, Liz, and has since raised his family, Duncan and Alien. We look forward to meeting them at some point. I recall Scott attending my ordination and induction 21 years ago in Sutherland. And over these last 20 so years, we've kept in touch, remembering how it was he was ordained to the ministry of Word and Sacrament, not least on the island of Ireland itself, and thereafter ministering elsewhere in Scotland and latterly in the US. So now, Scott, with Liz, you've returned to your native country and to this charge in particular. And it's my hope that he will take charge of you folks as you welcome him to the parish. And I know he will be loyal to you, as you will be to him, which was his great way of showing service in the church. Loyalty and indeed respect for each other is a vital component in ministry, upon which you, Scott, embark tonight. For your ministry is to the whole people of God, not just for folks of Camperland and indeed Netherley, but for the whole people of God. Indeed, it's my belief that the church needs more and more to understand what it is to be a priesthood of believers. So, Scott, may you continue here on your journey of faith, and in journeying with your flock, may you achieve with them a flavour of the kingdom. And I wish you all folks here God's blessing as a new page is turned in the life of your congregation. And may you achieve big things in the name of Him who is our Lord and Saviour. Yes, God, I remain faithfully the big gun. And I'll have you know I'm not really that old. If maybe now retired, and perhaps a wee bit retarded. Can I just ask you to pause a minute? I want to read this as a final parting before I take back for home. Be at peace and have genuine love among yourselves. God, the Comforter of all good, will be your helper. Bless you all.
Thank you, Alan. Thank you for these very nice and kind words. I have a letter from Alistair Cherry, who was minister here before our previous minister, and I've been asked to read it. Alistair says, I send my best wishes to the Reverend Scott Blythe for his new ministry amongst the folk of Stamperland. It is with very fond memories of my time in Stamperland I write these words. It was the longest period of my ministry, and I have very happy memories of the events and the people associated with them. I hope the Blythe family will settle into the new manse in Ormond Avenue and feel at home there as much as we felt at home in the old one, further up the road. It is an exciting time for minister and people, but with God's help, great things can be achieved and any difficulties overcome. May God pour out his richest blessings on Scott, his family, and the family of Stamperland. I regret that the family circumstances do not permit me to attend this evening. Alistair. Well, we've learned a little bit more about Scott, although we still don't know what colour his pyjamas are. But I think we have learned enough to trust him to now take the chair. And as he does, I would ask Andrew to bring out flowers that we have for Liz, and the hope is they will last long enough that she will be able to enjoy them. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Friends, it's getting late, so I will not add another speech to those that have been so well made earlier this evening. It's good to be home. It's been an amazing process that has brought me home. It started with my wife. She is from Texas, and when we first thought about the idea of possibly going to Scotland, I said, "You can't go there, you'll freeze to death." You've been living in temperatures of 100 degrees for 100 days. How could you live in Scotland for 10? And she said, "I think we need to think about it." And she let it go for a while. And then we kept looking at some other jobs elsewhere in the States. And then she came back, she said, "No, I think we have to go to Scotland." And I said, just about to say, "You were freezing again." She said, no, you've got to listen to me. I've been praying about this, and we need to do this. At which point I said, "Oh." And we did. And it took so fast, it must have been what God wanted. It was incredible to be invited to speak to the people here when I was over in Scotland in June, just going through the process of being interviewed to be readmitted as a possible minister within the Church of Scotland. I wrote to the congregations here saying that I'd be willing to be spoken to because I would be in Scotland. I could preach for them if they wanted, but I understood that they may not consider my candidature as a result of the stage where I was. But they were very keen to have a conversation with me. In fact, when I arrived on the Sunday morning and preached on the Sunday evening, by the time I had finished, I'm sure I was so jet-lagged I didn't know which way was up or which way was down. They came up and said, could you fit us in? And so I managed to arrange for a meeting on the Thursday evening. And when I came here, it was a very good meeting. There was a lot of good conversation, a lot of fun, and a lot of excitement within me as a result of the process. And so I returned, and when I heard from the officials in Edinburgh that I had been accepted back in as an eligible candidate, I let the people here know, because I knew they were due to have a meeting. And the meeting was supposed to be a few days later, and I was expecting maybe something to come then. Within an hour, they offered me the job. I nearly fell off my chair, especially since our timeline being what it is and me being so far away. I thank you for being so willing to engage with me. I thank you for your prayers for Liz. She wishes to be here. She's getting very frustrated and is desperate to come and set up her new home. And so we hope that we will be able to do that soon, all of us together. We heard wonderfully tonight about how we are on a journey. The process of where the future is God's future. We have to trust in that, friends. If the institution has to change, or even if the institution has to die, God has got a plan. We will work together to find a way, to find new ways to touch the hearts of all of the people around us, to find a way to be gracious in the midst of this community, to find ways in which we might serve the wider community that has somehow lost touch with what God can mean and what the Spirit can do for each of our lives. If you're prepared for that, so am I. So let's hope God, as the stranger, continues to walk with us. Thank you.
Reverend Scott, ladies and gentlemen, I'm delighted to have been asked. Norrie tells me he didn't ask everybody else first, so I'm particularly delighted to have been asked to welcome you, Scott, to this area and to this new adventure, this new ministry, to welcome you on behalf of the local congregations, the local clergy, all of whom together make up Clarkston Churches Together. Some of the folks who are part of that group are here this evening. I see Ian McCallum of Cartsbridge Evangelical Church. We have Grey Fletcher, of course, and we have the grandfather, the old man of the group, Tom Nelson. Tom Nelson, who made me so welcome when I came to Williamwood, which seems like not so very long ago at all. We have apologies from some of our other local clergy. The two recently arrived Roman Catholic priests in the parish of St Joseph's, Fathers Stephen and Jonathan, can't be here, but wanted to be mentioned. Reverend Nicholas Taylor, who's the minister at St Aidan's, so it's late, St Aidan's Scottish Episcopal Church, and some of our other Church of Scotland colleagues also have other commitments tonight. But on behalf of all of those here and all of those who can't be here, I'm pleased to welcome you to Stamperland and to the linked charge of Stamperland with Netherley. We realise that in coming back home to this area of the west of Scotland, it might take a wee while to readjust and to resettle back into the very distinctive culture that is Glasgow and its south side. I know, for example, that if you're travelling from New Jersey into Manhattan over the Brooklyn Bridge, you might hardly see somebody who was thinking about jumping into the waters below. If you're travelling from the south side of Glasgow, however, into the city centre, it's a different sort of a ministry, and you do notice the guy on the side who's thinking about jumping, as one of our colleagues did. And so the ministry there is not simply to pass on in that mist of yellow taxis going into New York, but rather to pause on the banks of the Clyde. One of our colleagues did that and said to this chap who was ready to jump, "Come on now, think about your family." And he said, "I don't have a family." "Well," said our colleague, "think about Rangers." Not always the wisest thing to say. But he said, "I'm not a Rangers supporter." "Well," said the colleague, "let's think about Celtic." I'm not a Celtic supporter," said the man who was ready to jump. "Ah well," said the minister, "jump, you atheist." Glasgow has a very distinctive culture, and I'm sure you'll begin to be reminded of that. The confusion extends even to food. Somebody who has an American wife probably knows what you're eating most of the time. It would be steak from Texas. Somebody who's lived in New Jersey might expect to eat hamburger or hot dog. Sometimes when you go visiting, even in the south side of Glasgow, things are not quite so clear. And I'm reminded of another colleague who was invited out to a church family for dinner and wasn't very sure what the smells were coming from the kitchen, and so asked the young son of the family, "What are we having to eat tonight?" And the wee boy said very confidently, "We're having goat." "Goat?" said the minister. "That's unusual for Glasgow. It's unusual for the west of Scotland, are you sure?" "Oh yes," said the wee boy, "I'm perfectly sure. I heard my dad tell my mum it's time we had the old goat for dinner." you about Glasgow, and I'm sure you remember, Scott, that Glasgow people are hospitable and willing to share, and I know that that's true of the folks of Netherley and of Stamperland. I'm reminded again of a minister going to visit one of the homes of the church folk in this area, and so willing was this old man to share that when the minister sat down, he offered him a selection of nuts that were sitting on his table. He didn't want to eat them, he found them difficult to eat, and he said to the minister, "You help yourself, just you take what you want." And so the minister took this lovely selection of nuts, of almonds and cashews and all Brazils and all the rest of it, and really enjoyed it. Thanked the man before he was about to leave, but he said, "You know, that was an awfully funny gift for somebody to give to you when you had difficulty eating that sort of thing." "It's okay," said the old fellow, "they had chocolate on them to begin with." Sharing in lots of different ways is what we do in this area. And I know that the folks of Parkston Churches Together and also of the William Wood High chaplaincy team look forward to sharing with you, Scott, in the work of ministry in this part of the world. There are pitfalls. It has been known for the clergy of Parkston Churches Together to be in a lift in a care home and to have to be rescued by the fire brigade, and that one's not made up. But the point is, we were all in it together. And the Parkston Churches Together group, the William Wood High chaplaincy group, are all in it together. We derive many blessings and much richness from working together, and we hope that you will be able both to share in that and to contribute to that. So in closing, I want to say welcome on behalf of your colleagues, on behalf of the local congregations, and we hope that you, and in due course Liz, will find blessing here amongst us. Welcome.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm more than aware that having one thing between you guys and some nice home baking, so I shall be. Very important to have a lot of thanks on what's been a really great and special evening. First of all, I'd like to thank our chairman for this evening, Norrie Bolton. Already mentioned that I know Norrie has got a power of working this evening and has been assisted as well. So to Norrie and his assistants, a very big thank you indeed. Glasgow Presbytery and the official clergy this evening, we thank you for your support through the whole process, and indeed in particular, Christian Finnegan, Stephen Owens, John McGinney for their very warm, sincere and humorous words in relation to the ministers. Absolutely spot on and much appreciated. The choir, I must say it's been years since I've seen a choir like that at Stanton Parish Church, and I know the ladies of our modest choir have very much enjoyed being part of that, very entertaining, so thank you for your musical display. The Reverend Alan Watt for his introduction of Scott, thank you very much. Jan Matheson, again on behalf of Parkston Churches Together, thank you for your kind words. The Uniformed Organisation, it's great to see some youth in the church this evening, and it was very much appreciated with the Guard of Honour from the Boys Brigade, the Scouts and the Guides. To all those, mainly ladies, I assume, who have done the home baking, which we all get to experience, thank you very much in advance. And finally, from me, thank you to all of you for making the effort to support this evening. It's only with your support tonight has been such a special and engaging experience for us all. So thank you very much.
Friends, let us stand. Go now in God's name, and may the blessing of the Creator, the Son, and the Holy Spirit rest upon you all and all whom you love, this night and forevermore. Amen.